The rain hammered the lake like 1,000 tiny fists, sending ripples across the dark water. A lone cabin stood at the shoreline, its windows glowing faintly against the storm. But that night, the cabin wasn't empty, though Karen thought it was. Karen, the self-proclaimed ruler of the HOA board, tightened her trench coat around herself as she marched down the slippery path. She muttered under her breath, her umbrella snapping backward in the wind. "This is unacceptable," she hissed. "Rules are rules. No one builds a deck without my approval." Her eyes narrowed on the cabin. She had been watching it for weeks, furious that the owner, me, had ignored her endless letters and demands. Tonight, she wasn't going to wait another second. She was going to make a point. Karen pulled a set of lockpicks from her purse, an odd tool for someone who preached about law and order, and crouched by the cabin door. The storm muffled the tiny click as the lock gave way. Inside, the cabin smelled of cedar and rain-soaked earth. Karen stepped in, dripping water onto the wooden floorboards. Her flashlight beam cut through the shadows, glinting off framed photographs of fishing trips, campfires, and family gatherings. She scoffed. Violations everywhere. Deck too wide, lights not HOA approved, trash bins out of regulation size. Her voice echoed in the cabin, sharp and bitter. But as she prowled deeper inside, something strange caught her attention, a half-drunk cup of coffee on the counter. Steam still curled faintly from its rim. Karen froze. Her heart quickened, but pride forced her forward. "So you're here after all?" she muttered. Tightening her grip on the flashlight, she rounded the corner into the living room, and then stopped dead in her tracks. The armchair by the fireplace was turned slightly, the back blocking her view of whoever sat there. But she could see it, the steady rise and fall of someone's shoulder. Whoever it was hadn't moved a muscle since she entered. Karen's voice wavered. "Excuse me, this property is under the jurisdiction of the HOA, and I have every right." The chair creaked as it slowly rotated toward her. The flashlight slipped in Karen's sweaty hand. Her jaw dropped. Because the person waiting inside wasn't me. It was someone she never expected. Their presence alone was enough to silence her rehearsed tirade. The storm raged louder outside, but in that cabin, it was the silence that screamed. Karen's lips trembled as the figure leaned forward into the firelight. And with one look, everything changed. The fire crackled softly, sending warm light flickering across the stranger's face. Karen blinked in disbelief, her mind scrambling to process what she was seeing. Sitting calmly in the armchair, hands folded, was none other than the state attorney, general, the highest legal authority in the state. Karen's jaw worked soundlessly. What are you doing here?" The attorney general tilted their head, studying her with eyes sharp as glass. "The better question, Mrs. Whitmore, is what you're doing here, at night, in someone else's home." Karen swallowed hard, but years of being the HOA president had made her stubborn. She straightened her shoulders, forcing a thin smile. This is a violation check. As head of the Homeowners Association, it's my duty to ensure properties comply with regulation. The Attorney General raised an eyebrow. "By breaking and entering?" Karen faltered. "Well, technically the door was unlocked," the Attorney General interrupted, their tone razor-sharp. "No, Mrs. Whitmore. I heard the lock snap myself. You used tools, didn't you?" Karen's face flushed crimson. Perhaps I came in a little forcefully, but you don't understand. This cabin is a problem. It doesn't meet standards. The Attorney General leaned forward, voice low and deliberate. "The only problem I see is that you violated state law tonight. Do you realize the severity of what you've done?" The storm outside pounded the windows, each gust of wind making Karen's pulse jump. She had imagined triumph, marching in, listing violations, maybe even humiliating me. But this, facing down the state's top legal officer, it was the one thing she hadn't prepared for. Still, her pride clawed for survival. You can't scare me. I've dealt with plenty of lawyers. I know my rights." The Attorney General let out a short, humorless laugh. "Do you? Because as of this moment, you're trespassing. And if the owner presses charges, it won't be a simple HOA complaint. It'll be criminal." Karen's eyes darted toward the door. Rain blurred the glass, a tempting escape route. But the Attorney General's calm, unwavering gaze pinned her in place. Then came the sound that made her blood run cold. Footsteps on the porch. Slow, deliberate, approaching the very door she had broken open. Karen's breath caught. Who else is here?" The Attorney General didn't answer. Instead, they leaned back, their expression unreadable. As the door latch clicked and swung wide, a figure stepped inside, dripping rain, shaking off a heavy coat. Karen's heart sank as recognition hit her. This was about to get far worse than she ever imagined. The door slammed shut against the storm, and the new arrival set their coat on a hook by the wall. Water pooled beneath their boots as they stepped forward, their presence commanding the room without a single word. Karen's breath hitched. No, it can't be. It was me, the actual owner of the cabin. I froze when I saw her standing there, flashlight in hand, dripping on my wooden floors like she belonged. But then my eyes caught the Attorney General, sitting calmly in the chair as if the entire scene had been staged for this exact moment. Karen, I said slowly, disbelief in my voice. What on earth are you doing in my cabin? Her face flushed and she stammered. I was conducting an inspection. There are violations here. And as HOA president, the Attorney General cut in smoothly. She broke in, with lockpicks. I blinked, my anger rising. You broke in? Karen, that's a crime. Karen's eyes darted between us, her usual authority slipping through her fingers. You don't understand. He's been ignoring the HOA letters. I had no choice but to act. Someone has to uphold the rules. The Attorney General stood, each movement precise and deliberate. Rules are meant to protect communities. Mrs. Whitmore, not feed personal vendettas. What you've done tonight is unlawful. Karen's composure began to crack. She gripped her flashlight tighter, as if clinging to the last shred of control. You don't get it! If people start ignoring me, ignoring the board, then everything falls apart. Property values plummet, neighbors stop caring, chaos. Her voice echoed, shrill against the storm. I stepped closer, keeping my tone calm but firm. Karen, you crossed a line. This isn't about community anymore. This is about you. And now you've dragged yourself into a mess you can't bully your way out of. The Attorney General's gaze didn't waver. And unfortunately for you, Mrs. Whitmore, this is exactly why I'm here. To investigate complaints about abuse of power within your HOA. Karen's mouth fell open. Investigate? You set me up? Not quite, the Attorney General replied evenly. You set yourself up. I was already looking into reports. Tonight, you handed me all the evidence I needed. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating Karen's pale face. She looked cornered, the storm inside her as fierce as the one battering the lake. For the first time, her voice trembled. You wouldn't really press charges, would you? The Attorney General glanced at me, leaving the decision hanging heavy in the room. And for the first time, the power wasn't in Karen's hands. The storm rattled the windows harder, as though nature itself was leaning in to witness what came next. Karen stood frozen, her flashlight beam wobbling across the cabin walls. For once, the unshakable HOA president seemed small. I crossed my arms, glaring at her. You've harassed me with letters, fines, threats, and now this? Sneaking into my cabin during a storm? Karen, you've gone too far. Karen's lips tightened. I did what had to be done. You refused to comply with the bylaws. You think you're above the rules. But I see the violations. Deck too wide. Unauthorized lighting. Trash bins. Stop, the Attorney General cut in, their tone stern. Mrs. Whitmore, you sound less like a leader and more like someone obsessed with control. These so-called violations are trivial compared to the crime you committed tonight. Karen's voice wavered, but she doubled down. If you let him get away with it, others will follow. This community will crumble. I shook my head. The only thing crumbling is trust. People joined this neighborhood for peace, not to live under your thumb. Karen's eyes darted around the cabin, desperate for footing. She pointed her flashlight at me, her voice cracking. You turned everyone against me. Don't act innocent. But before I could answer, the Attorney General stepped closer, their presence towering. Mrs. Whitmore, enough. I have documented testimony, HOA meeting recordings, and now, first-hand evidence of your illegal entry. The case against you is undeniable. Karen's hand shook, the flashlight slipping slightly. For a heartbeat. She looked like a woman stripped bare of the authority she clung to so fiercely. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking for the first time. You don't understand what it's like. If I lose control, I lose everything. This HOA, it's all I have. The confession hung heavy in the air. Rain hammered the roof, as if marking her fall from power. The Attorney General's expression softened, but their voice remained firm. Control built on fear is no control at all. Tonight you have a choice. Face the law with dignity, or make this much worse for yourself. Karen's eyes glistened. She turned toward me, her expression torn between defiance and desperation. Please, you wouldn't press charges, would you? After all, we're neighbors. I held her gaze, weighing the storm outside against the storm she had caused in all our lives. Finally, I took a breath, ready to speak the words that would decide her fate. The fire snapped and hissed, filling the silence left by Karen's trembling plea. The storm outside had slowed to a steady drizzle, as though even the weather was waiting for my answer. Karen stood before me, drenched, desperate, her eyes searching mine for mercy. Please, we can settle this quietly. No need to ruin everything. I'll step down even. Her words hung in the air, brittle and unconvincing. The same woman who once thundered through HOA meetings, gavel in hand, was now bargaining like a trapped animal. I sighed, my arms still folded. Karen, you've made life miserable for this community for years. You fined people for having the wrong shade of curtains, for leaving a bike on the porch, for planting flowers you didn't like. You turned neighbors into enemies. And tonight you broke into my home. That's not leadership, that's abuse. Her face crumpled. For the first time, she had no comeback. No rule book to hide behind. The Attorney General stepped forward, their presence steady and commanding. Mrs. Whitmore, you've admitted to overstepping your authority. You've committed trespassing, and you've abused your position. This is not the end. It's the beginning of accountability. Karen's lips quivered, but she didn't argue. The weight of their words seemed to crush her shoulders. I looked at the Attorney General. So, what happens now? They paused, glancing at me before answering. That depends. You can press charges, or you can let this become part of the broader investigation into HOA misconduct. Either way, her actions tonight won't go unaddressed. Karen's voice cracked. Please, don't press charges. I only wanted order. I thought I was protecting this place. I took a step closer, my voice steady but firm. Karen, order without compassion isn't order at all. You weren't protecting us. You were controlling us. And tonight, you crossed the line. Her eyes dropped to the floor. For once, she had nothing to say. The Attorney General reached into their coat, pulling out a slim notebook. Mrs. Whitmore, I'll be adding tonight's incident to my report. You're free to leave for now. But know this, your reign of unchecked authority is over. The words hit harder than any fine ever could. Karen's flashlight clattered to the floor as she stumbled toward the door. She opened it to the night air, the storm easing into quiet mist. Without looking back, she slipped into the darkness. The cabin grew still. I exhaled, the tension finally breaking. The Attorney General gave me a nod. Justice doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it arrives in the silence after the storm. And with that, the chapter on HOA Karen finally closed. And that's how it all went down inside the lake cabin that stormy night. If you enjoyed watching Karma catch up to Karen, don't forget to smash that like button. Drop a comment below with your favorite moment. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel, so you never miss the next jaw-dropping story. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.